So be honest with me. How many times this week alone have you said, I really love New York, but I just can't deal with another winter. I'm sick of all the rent hikes, and I really don't want to spend another 45 minutes just to find a single parking space to have a simple 1 hour dinner. Now imagine this instead. What if you could live somewhere where you still had access to pro sports and concerts and great food and plenty of culture and really easy access to weekend getaways? But you can actually have a mortgage payment that's a lot less than what you're actually paying for rent right now. And your kids can safely ride their bikes through quiet streets or even just play around in the backyard. And the biggest crowds that you have to deal with, maybe a few people that are in front of you in line at Starbucks, as opposed to the 4,000 people you're standing shoulder to shoulder with at Penn Station. In this video, I'm about to walk you through what life really looks like if you relocate from New York City here to Rocklin, California. We'll compare cost of living, lifestyle, weather, employment opportunities, and just the overall quality of life in general. And we're talking real numbers, not just the vibes. And if you happen to be a teacher, a first responder, a healthcare worker, or military, veteran, or active duty, we're going to discuss a special program I've created just for you. It's my Heroes program I created that will literally put money back in your pocket at closing time whenever you buy a house with me here in Rocklin or greater Sacramento or Northern California area. And we'll dive into those details a little bit later on. So if you're tired of feeling like your apartment owns you instead of the other way around, make sure you stick around because Rocklin, California may just be the plot twist that you never saw coming. And at any point, if you're thinking that, Rocklin may just be your next chapter, there's a link down in the description. You can book a call with me. No pressure, no sales pitch, just straight answers as to, whether Rocklin or a nearby community may be right for you. I'm Chris Reese, real estate broker here in Rocklin and Northern California real estate expert. I help people, including a lot of East Coast refugees, figure out if relocating to Northern California is the right move for them. And if it is, how to do so without overpaying or making expensive mistakes. And today we're specifically talking to New York City residents. What's a day-to-day life here in Rocklin compared to New York City? How do housing costs and rent and dining out and parking compare here in Rocklin to NYC? We're going to talk about weather. Are you trading snowstorms for like oven blast heat? And how far away are you from all the jobs like in tech and government and education and healthcare and from the military bases? And can you still get your fix of sports and arts and culture without like a 2-hour commute and a second mortgage to pay for parking? I'm going to break all of that down for you and even include where things are at on Google Maps. You can kind of literally see, where everything's at in the area. And if you actually want to go from, switch it up from doom scrolling New York City rental listings to actually owning a home here in Rocklin with a garage and a backyard, make sure you smash that like button and subscribe to the channel. That way you don't miss any future breakdowns. All right, let's start with the big picture. So living in New York City, you definitely have like world-class everything. Arts, dining, media, culture, and fashion. But you kind of pay a price for that because you also have world-class outrageous rents and massive crowds and tons of noise and some pretty harsh winters. But Rocklin, California, we're a small city with just 70,000 residents and located just northeast of Sacramento, the capital of California. Rocklin it's a really strong family-oriented city and really known nationwide for its great schools and tons of parks and also lots of new housing. I guess think of Rocklin as, suburban, but definitely not boring. There's both established neighborhoods and newer construction, planned communities with cul-de-sacs and trails running through them. And we're just 20 to 25 minutes away from downtown Sacramento, the capital, of course, of California, if you're itching for a taste of the big city. Instead of like standing shoulder to shoulder on the subway, your commute might look more like a quick shot up I-80, or maybe you're taking surface roads around one of the nearby areas. There's a lot of employment opportunities very close to Rocklin and within Rocklin. Or like a ton of people here in Northern California, you may just work remotely and use the airport, which is very close by for travel. And trade-offs are, they're pretty simple. New York City, you have really high density with kind of high energy, but you also have a lot of high stress and a very high cost as well. Now, Rocklin, on the other hand, you have a lot of space and it's just very calm and really strong, high rated schools and family oriented neighborhoods and really short, easy travel times. Plus, you're not going to have a bodega on your corner that's open till 3 a.m. Now, if you're still with me, I'm guessing that you're kind of feeling like you're ready to trade in some of that 24/7 noise and congestion for a little breathing room. So let's dive into cost of living. So everybody's really first consideration when thinking about relocating is going to be the money, right? And what it costs to live there. Now, I'm sure you're painfully aware, but New York City's overall cost of living is amongst the highest in the world. It ranks like right at the top globally, and the prices of restaurants alone really help keep it there. Let's take a quick look at rent. Depending on the borough or the neighborhood, of course, a decent one-bedroom apartment or condo, if it's like in Brooklyn or Manhattan, it's going to run you like $3,000 to $5,000 plus a month, with the more elite and more desirable areas pushing even higher. And that's for what? 500 to 750 square feet? Now let's compare that with Rocklin. As of late 2025, a one bedroom in Rocklin is going to run you around $1,900 to $2,000 a month. So basically, in New York City, you're looking at $3,000 to $5,000 plus versus $1,900 to $2,000. That's a significant, substantial difference. And we haven't even factored in parking yet. Now let's switch gears from renting to buying. I'm going to walk you through a few different neighborhoods here in Rocklin at different price ranges so you can get an idea of what you can get here. All right, so let's bring up Sunset East on the map. Sunset East is what I'd call a starter neighborhood right here in Rocklin. You'll see older but solid homes, typically single-story and two-story builds, older ones. Many buyers are getting in here from the high 400s to like low 600s, depending on the amenities and the upgrades. Now, these homes range from, somewhere around 1,200 to 1,900 square feet, depending on the price, of course. Now, for most New York City renters, a mortgage payment on a home like that is less than you'd pay for a shoebox-sized condo in New York City. Plus, you have a yard. All right, now let's switch over here and look at the Stanford Ranch neighborhood. Pulling this up on the map. This is kind of a mid to a higher range. It's a step up to get into Stanford Ranch. They have classic Rocklin suburbs. There's lots of parks, established trees, and easy access to shopping and schools. Now, the price ranges here as low as like the mid 600s, but 600s to high 800s, and you're looking at square footage of like 2,000 to 3,000 plus square feet. Now, Stanford Ranch is where a lot of kind of move up buyers land. You've got much more space and better layouts and still very manageable payments on a mortgage compared to what you'd have to pay for rent in New York City. Then we have Whitney Ranch. Let's pull that up on Google Maps here. Whitney Ranch is a newer master plan community with lots of amenities and a very modern feel. Medium home prices in Whitney Ranch are kind of hovering around the mid 800s, but there are still homes available in kind of the mid to high 600s, and they range all the way up into the 1.2 million plus. And the square footage of the homes here in Whitney Ranch, kind of range on average, low side being around like 1,900 square feet up to like 3,500 plus square feet. With Whitney Ranch, what you're getting is newer builds, community clubhouses, that modern up and coming feel, but still really established. Now let's pull up Whitney Oaks here on Google Maps. Whitney Oaks is really the golf course living here in Rocklin, rolling hills, gated pockets, and really more of kind of a custom feel. Median prices in Whitney Oaks are kind of ranging in the low 700s to high 800s. But many of the homes in Whitney Oaks, especially those on the golf course or with a view of the golf course or just a really nice view, they're hitting 900, 1.2 million plus. Particularly for the more upgraded and larger square footage homes. And the size of these homes are really like 2,000 to 3,000, up to like 3,500 square feet. Now, if you've always dreamed about, living near a golf course rather than like kind of planning your life around, metro traffic and the subway, Whitney Oaks may be the spot for you. Now, let's pull up Clover Valley on the map here. This is higher end with larger lots, and it's kind of more custom and semi-custom homes and that kind of really tucked away feel. Price-wise, you're typically looking in really the high 900s into the 1.4 million plus range, depending on the specific home in this setting. These homes are anywhere from like 2,400 square feet up to like 4,000 square feet. But compare any of these neighborhoods to New York City, where buying a small condo is going to run you deep into the seven figures. The price to space ratio here is just a completely different ballgame. Literally 3 times the house for 1/3 the price, plus a yard and a garage. All right, now let's move on from cost of housing to, dining and groceries, because we all got to eat. Now, this one surprises a lot of New Yorkers. According to cost of living comparisons, restaurant prices in Sacramento, which is our closest big city, are like 25 to 35% less than the restaurants in New York City. A mid-range dinner for two in NYC is going to run somewhere around $140 to $150, and that's before drinks. Now, that same type of dinner here in Rocklin, Sacramento area is typically far lower. Dinner for two, medium range, out this way, maybe $80 to $100. And that's just eating out. What about stocking up the fridge and the pantry? Well, groceries here are also meaningfully lower on average than in New York City. Now let's talk parking and getting around downtown. Now, first and foremost, if you're in Rocklin or any of the nearby suburbs, parking is not an issue. There's no need for parking garages. There's parking everywhere. But if you are in downtown, if you're in this city, if you want to compare like for like, downtown Sacramento to New York, so your average parking in Manhattan, monthly parking can range, somewhere around, $400 to $800 plus per month. And event parking, well, that can feel like a major cover charge for a nightclub. But in downtown Sacramento, you're most likely looking at just a flat rate for garages that are dramatically lower. Often the price of, just one New York City hour for the entire evening at a Kings game or a concert. And in most Rocklin neighborhoods and all the surrounding suburbs, actually, you have your own driveway and garage. You're not circling the block for 25 minutes when you get home from work just to find a parking space. That alone is going to give you back hours, months, years back on your life. Now, if you're watching this and you're already doing the math in your head about possibly selling in New York or ending your lease and relocating here to Rocklin or anywhere nearby, that's what I help with. Check the link in the description. You can book a one-on-one Zoom call with me. We'll take a look at your situation in New York, your timeline, your budget, and we'll figure out if Rocklin or a nearby community is a good fit for you. Even if you're a year out or more, it's never too soon. Getting clarity early can save you thousands of dollars and just a ton of stress. All right, let's move on to weather. Because a lot of East Coast folks, by mid-February are maybe a little bit emotionally damaged from the severe winters out there. The general climate, weather in NYC, it looks like kind of hot, muggy summers to quite the contrast, which is moderately to very cold winters. The average July highs right around 84 degrees, but pretty humid. And then in the winters, the coldest month being January, the average is as low as 29 degrees, maybe up to like very, very low 40s. Plus, you get like 30 inches of snow on average out there. So a muggy heat in the summer and a real winter in the winter with lots of wardrobe changes, from season to season. Now, by comparison, Rocklin in the summer, like all of Northern California, it does get hot, averaging the mid 90s in the summer, but it's a dry heat, and we have very mild, kind of wet winters. December, we average, like low to mid 50s, with the extreme low being in the 40s. And snow, I've lived in this greater Sacramento area my entire life, and I think it's snowed twice, and it barely stuck on the ground. It's really a non-factor here. So by comparison, winters are much nicer here than in New York City, that is for sure. The summers get a little bit hotter, of course, but it's a dry heat. And so you're not like, shirts sticking to your skin as you get out of your car and walk into work. And, air conditioning is quite plentiful. So you go from your air-conditioned house to your air-conditioned car to the air-conditioned Costco, and then back home to jump in your swimming pool. So let's talk about kind of the day-to-day feel here in Rocklin. Typical mornings here, you'll see people out, walking their dogs in the morning. You see kids biking to school, joggers and walkers on the trails and walking around the neighborhoods. Typical afternoons, the parks are busy with families and kids running around, youth sports at the fields, stuff like that. And evenings, well, backyard barbecues and little league games, and people wandering around the shopping centers and the malls, or maybe heading into Roseville or Sacramento for a little dining or nightlife. We're talking space, sidewalks, yards, parks, but what we're not talking about is traffic and congestion and noise pollution. If your current outdoor space is basically a fire escape with a plant that you're desperately trying to keep alive, well, relocating to Rocklin is going to just feel like freedom to you. Okay, so, lifestyle is great and it's very important, but most of us still need to work. So let's discuss employment. The greater Sacramento area, Rocklin, Northern California, is rich with employment opportunities from all types of work. There's a vast amount of needed for construction, so that's a lot of great opportunities. But the ones that I really want to discuss are those where you actually have a location to go to. So let's talk about that employment in 4 buckets: medical, government, tech, and military. And we'll talk about the commute times to get to those locations as well. So for those in the medical field, you've got quite a few hospitals and locations that are within a very short, reasonable drive from Rocklin. So let's bring up Google Maps here, and we'll take a look. So you see over here in Roseville, we have Sutter Roseville Medical Center, which is a major regional hospital just down the road. Roseville is Rocklin's very close neighbor. We also have over here Kaiser Permanente Roseville, which is a really big campus serving the region, and it's expanding as we speak. Now, if we go out here, we zoom out to Sacramento, we have the UC Davis Medical Center. It's actually ranked #1 hospital in Sacramento, in the Sacramento region, and it's a major employer and academic medical center teaching hospital. And then all the way over here, kind of Rancho Cordova area, we have the VA Med Center. So all very close locations, even the VA Med Center within 25, 30 minutes of Rocklin. So for doctors, nurses, administrators, and other healthcare professionals, the greater Sac metro area offers a lot of diversity for employment with a lot of opportunity. The UC Davis Health System in particular has been recognized multiple times as #1 in both California and on the national level. So let's pull up Google Maps here again and look at the quick commute times. So here's Rocklin, and we kind of zoom over to Sutter, Roseville, and Kaiser, and you can see the different surface streets or the highways that you can take. You're about 5 to 10 minutes taking surface streets or highways, depending on where you're at. Now, if we zoom back out and we look from Rocklin all the way out here to the UC Davis Med Center, you're probably going to take the highway, probably go 80 to 50. You're looking at roughly, say, 30 to 40 minutes, depending on traffic, and that's probably the most extreme commute that you're going to face living in Rocklin, and that's going all the way to downtown Sacramento. All right, now if we take and look at the map here, zooming out over to where the VA Med Center is, that's kind of south, but it's not directly along one freeway. So depending on where you're at in Rocklin, you can either jump on 65 and connect to 80 and then either get off here at Sunrise, or you can go over to like Auburn Boulevard, and then you're going to take that south all the way to where you eventually connect down here to 50. Or you can just take back roads, like back through Roseville, starting back at Rocklin, and you'll hit Sierra College Boulevard, which turns into Hazel, and take that all the way up to 50. Regardless, you're going to hit 50, and then you'll get off over here at the VA Med Center. And no matter what route you take, you're looking at somewhere around 35 to 40 minutes. So again, the longest commute as a medical professional that you're going to face is maybe up to 40 minutes. But if you're working in Roseville at either of the major hospitals there, 5 to 10 minutes. So for medical, very short commute times. All right, now let's talk tech. So Sacramento's tech scene has been quietly heating up. The greater Sacramento metro area has about 1,400 different tech companies alone, with the average salaries of these companies starting at around $90,000 and up. Now, just over in Folsom, if we can pull up the map here and look and show you where Folsom is in proximity to Rocklin, over here there's a large Intel campus that has thousands of employees, and there's other tech and IT firms there as well. Now, if we zoom back over here, we can see that Oracle still has a pretty good sized campus here in Rocklin. And then, speaking of Rocklin specifically for tech, our own Sierra College actually has this really great program. They started, it's like an 18-month program to specifically train technicians, not engineers, actually technicians, to repair and service semiconductors for the future of AI. And so that's a really up and coming job that's kind of based right here in Rocklin, actually. And those salaries I hear are starting around $90,000 to $100,000 for technicians. Now, commute times for tech. If you're in Rocklin, you can get from one side of Rocklin to the other in 10 minutes or less. So that's super easy peasy. If you're going to Sacramento, we've already shown you earlier, it's about a 35, 40-minute drive into like deep downtown Sacramento during traffic. And Folsom, it's about a 15, 20-minute commute via surface streets and back roads here from Rocklin. All right, now let's talk government jobs, because as you know, Sacramento is the state capital. And if we pull up the map here, you can kind of zoom in from Rocklin back here to Capitol Mall, where the state capitol is. It's about a 25, 30-minute drive, maybe, maybe a little more depending on traffic, where there are tons of jobs with the state of California. There's also federal agencies, and there's a ton of local and regional government jobs as well. Government is one of the top employment sectors here in greater Sacramento, Northern California. And Sacramento County is known for strong public sector opportunities. And then, of course, Rocklin is a city and has its own, local government and opportunities for jobs within the city, including police and fire and, administrative portions of the city. And Roseville, our very close neighbor, has the same opportunities. All right, now let's move on over and talk about jobs for military. If you're active duty or a reservist, or maybe even a veteran that just likes to stay nearby a base-like community, you have a lot of opportunity for that, because we have two major Air Force bases that are within close proximity of Rocklin. So let's pull up the map here, Google Maps again, and let's zoom out. So from Rocklin to Beale Air Force Base, it's about 40 miles north of Sacramento. And from Rocklin, you're roughly in that 40 to 55-minute drive window, depending on the route and the traffic. And most people from Rocklin would take 65 through Lincoln in this direction. Now, going the other direction, we have Travis Air Force Base. So let's zoom out and find Travis. This is located near Fairfield. Rocklin to Fairfield is about 63 miles, roughly about an hour and 15-minute drive under normal conditions. So as you can see, if you're in the military or a veteran working on base or private contracting, Rocklin really kind of sits like right in the sweet spot where you can have that great suburban quiet lifestyle and a fairly short commute to get to either one of the bases. Now, if you're in tech or healthcare or government or military, or any job for that matter, teaching, construction, whatever, and you're trying to figure out if your job or your career is transferable here to Rocklin, just hit that link up in the description. I'd be happy to have a conversation with you. I'm not a career coach, but I can definitely help you pair job centers with neighborhoods, commute times, and realistic budgets. That way you're not flying blind. Now, I know the one question that every New Yorker is probably asking. Okay, Chris, Rocklin is great, but am I going to be bored out of my mind? Well, look, the short answer is no, but let's talk about it. Let's start with a little bit of local entertainment. Let's go ahead and pull up my friend Google Maps here again. So here we are in Rocklin, and right over here you can see Quarry Park, and it has a small concert venue. They do a ton of events, and there's a ropes and an obstacle course. And then there's some really great restaurants. Like over here on this part of Rocklin is the Chef's Table. And then back over here we have the Studio Movie Grill for dinner and a movie. And there's 2 bowling alleys. And then there's, breweries and tap houses all over the place. Now let's kind of zoom over here to our good friend, our next door neighbor, Roseville. Right over here in West Roseville, we have Top Golf, and not too far from that, we have the Galleria Mall and the Fountains. It's another shopping center here. These are a stone's throw from Rocklin. Now, Galleria Mall has a movie theater and a bowling alley. Now let's zoom out just a little bit, kind of more central Roseville here. You see we have Sunsplash, which is this really great water park. And then, all around Roseville, there are plenty of restaurants and tap houses and breweries as well. Now, let's kind of zoom over here to historic old Roseville. So it's just a few minutes away, and this is kind of, the quick answer to nightlife. We have bars and restaurants and just a really great spot where there's live music. This is home to Bar 101 and the Boxing Donkey. And it's really kind of, I guess it's a mini version, a mini answer to like downtown Sacramento. So it's kind of a really cool spot if you want to get away and have a little bit more excitement. Now let's zoom back out a little ways further, and you can see downtown, midtown Sacramento. Again, it's like 20 to 30 minutes away, and there's just a ton of stuff to do in downtown Sacramento. It's known as the farm to fork capital of the world. There's tons of bars, little speakeasies and breweries, and lots of art galleries and events. It's really kind of the cultural hub of Northern California. So if we zoom in over here, this is the Doco. Right in the heart of that is the Golden One Center. It's the home of the Sacramento Kings and a constant rotation of concerts and major events. The Monster Truck Show, my personal favorite. Now let's zoom out a little bit ways across the river into West Sacramento. We have Sutter Health Park. This is where the River Cats play, and currently the Oakland A's. We have them for a couple more years, which is really cool. And then if we zoom out a little bit here, this is where the Sacramento Republic FC is playing now, with plans of a new stadium to be right over here in the downtown rail yards, which is going to add even more energy and just a ton more events to have. And this is going to really boost and make the greater Sacramento area grow even further. So lots of opportunity for sports when you're living in nearby Rocklin. So as you can see from that little map tour, you're not giving up on pro sports and events and shopping and excitement and nightlife. It's just instead of taking the subway, you're taking the freeway. And then you get to cruise right on back home into your quiet little, sleepy neighborhood of Rocklin. So specifically, when it comes to dining and nightlife, is it New York? Well, no. Well, let's be honest, it's not. But nearby Sacramento has leaned in hard into that farm to fork title. And, there's just a ton of foodie type, restaurants at a much more affordable price than in New York City, I might add. With some of those, venturing out into Roseville and Rocklin as well, like I mentioned, the Chef's Table earlier. So just a lot of opportunity for great food and, nightlife as well, particularly in the Doco. And if you don't want to venture all the way into Sacramento, like I mentioned, we have that old historic Roseville where a lot of people go to get that nighttime excitement. And remember, the prices of a meal at restaurants here in Sacramento, Rocklin, these greater Northern California areas, 25 to 35% less than what you're paying out there in New York City. So date night, girls' night out, or maybe pre-gaming before an event doesn't really hit your wallet so hard like it would out there in Manhattan. All right, now let's talk day trips. So when you're living in Rocklin, you're centrally located to just, do all kinds of things within like a 2-hour drive or less. Let's pull up Google Maps here and take a look. So here's Rocklin, and all the way up here is Tahoe, Lake Tahoe, world famous. You can get there in about 2 hours, about 100 miles away. You take the 50 to get there to South Lake. Now let's zoom back out here and go the other direction up to 80, and we're going to Reno, where people like to go gambling. It's like a mini Las Vegas, a mini kind of dirty Las Vegas, I guess. And that's about a little over 100 miles there. That's about a 2-hour drive, maybe a little bit more, depending on traffic. And then let's zoom out and go the other way up 80 out west. And we hit the Napa Valley wine region. It's about 80, 85 miles away. It's about an hour and a half away, where you can do all your good wine tasting and sample little bites to eat and stuff like that. Now, if we go a little further, and we're going to hit Bodega Bay. If you didn't do it all in the same trip, that's about a 2.5-hour drive from Rocklin, greater Sacramento area. But you're right there at the coast, and can eat some fresh oysters and get some clam chowder and all that good stuff. And the cool part, because it is centrally located, you can actually do all of these things in a single day. You really just have a ton of choices. Skiing, beaches, wine country, mountain biking, lake activity, all of this in just under 2 hours. Sure, from New York City, you absolutely can do some great trips. But the idea of having Tahoe and Napa and the Pacific Coast all within just a couple of hours of you, that's a really fantastic weekend, or a series of great weekends. It's a huge life upgrade for most people. All right, so we've covered, lifestyle and places to eat and employment and commutes and all that good stuff. But let's circle back to the neighborhoods, because this is where people start to say, all right, well, where am I actually going to live? And we touched on pricing a little bit here. So we're going to kind of revisit that. And here's really how I would position it, for you, for somebody coming from New York City or from the East Coast. Let's go ahead and pull up Google Maps here again. And here's Rocklin. Right around here, this area, this is Sunset East. If you recall, this is our starter entry-level area. Still a great neighborhood and fantastic schools. I may not have mentioned this earlier, but Rocklin ranks very high in not just the state, but in the country, with just a great system of schools. So Sunset East here, we have older homes, more modest square footage, and we're seeing those prices in the 400s to the 600 range, depending on the upgrades. And if you want to get into Rocklin at a more approachable price, then this is a fantastic way to do that. And, you may find a completely remodeled home, or maybe you get one for a great price and get a chance to, do those upgrades and do that style the way you want it. Now let's kind of go over here and let's outline this area. This is Stanford Ranch, and this is that classic move-up suburb we talked about earlier. Lots of parks and schools, and really it's kind of in central Rocklin. Median prices, low to mid 700s, with a general range from the 600s up to the 800s, kind of cruising on through that for the nicer, bigger properties with more amenities. Really think here, good balance of price, a really great location, and really some good amenities too. Now let's cruise on over here on the map to Whitney Ranch. This is that newer planned community, all the newer homes, newer construction, the big community clubhouse with pools, lots of trails here, of course, too. And then those medium prices, those are the high 800s. A lot of homes are hitting 900 to 1.2 million range. This is a great area if you want if you're really wanting to make sure that everything was built, let's say 5, 10, or 15 years or even brand new, this is the area you want to be at. Now, cruising back over here in between, this is the Whitney Oaks. Think golf and views, gated pockets, the golf course, the rolling hills, the whole shebang. Many of the homes here are in the high 600s to 900s. With views and luxury properties heading into the 1 million plus territory. Then let's cruise back over here to Clover Valley. A little bit older, but a lot more space. And it does have that really classic higher end feel. There are going to be a lot larger lots here. Everything's a little bit more custom, and there's a lot of like nature wrapping around you here. These homes are often, minimally in the high 900s to 1.4 million up to 2 million range. If you're coming from like a brownstone budget, this might be where your jaw kind of drops a little bit at what your money can actually get for you here. Now remember, all these numbers kind of move with the market. These are kind of general ranges. And there's more neighborhoods than just the ones we talked about, but these are kind of like the ones that I really like to highlight. But the key takeaway here is that you can go from barely affording a 1-bedroom apartment in New York City to owning a 4 or 5 bedroom home here in Rocklin for less than what you're paying in rent now. Plus, it's going to come with a yard, a garage, and a driveway. And you're going to be, very close to just these really top-notch schools and tons of parks and just a really kind of laid back, family-oriented community. All right, so let's kind of recap this with like a quick side-by-side. So cost of living and housing. In New York City, you're going to rent a 1-bedroom apartment or condo. It's going to cost you $3,000 to $5,000 or more for rent. Or if you're going to buy something of that same tiny size, you're in the upper 7 figures. We're here in Rocklin and the surrounding areas. You can rent that same small apartment for less than $2,000. And you can own a really nice 3, 4, 5 bedroom single family residence for as low as $500,000. Again, 3 times the house at 1/3 the price. With New York City, you've got really high energy and lots of culture and convenience of the public transit system, but it's also really noisy with huge crowds and very little personal space. But here in Rocklin, lots of space, great schools, lots of parks, and just suburban calm. And you're just minutes away from downtown Sacramento if you want to have a taste of that, big city life, or go to like any of the big city events, sporting events, concerts, things of that nature. All right, weather. Quick recap of weather. In New York, hot, humid summers, extremely cold winters. But here in Rocklin, it gets hot, but it's a dry heat. In the winters, very mild. You don't even have to worry about snow. No more shoveling the driveway. Employment, well, New York City has got a dense variety of jobs in finance and entertainment and tech and healthcare and everything else in between. Here in Rocklin, we also have a very vibrant job market in both, government and tech and healthcare and military. Not to mention a ton of opportunity in remote work and also into construction fields and all different sectors in the job market. Entertainment and getaways? Well, NYC, you already know. We got Broadway, pro sports, concerts, events, and everything. Here in Rocklin, though, we also have the Kings games and concerts at the Golden One. We got baseball at Sutter Health Park. We got soccer downtown. We have tons of restaurants and nightlife in downtown and old historic Roseville. Plus, super easy access to Napa, Tahoe, Reno, and the Pacific Coast. The real question isn't whether Rocklin is better than New York. It's which lifestyle lines up better with the life that you want for yourself and your family. All right, so before we wrap here, I wanted to tell you quickly about my Heroes program because you guys really deserve something extra and something special. If you're military, active, or a veteran in healthcare, first responder, or you're an educator, I've created this special program called my Heroes program specifically for you. In plain English, it's just a way of giving back to you, and we donate a portion of our commission directly to your closing costs at close of escrow when you buy a home with me. The typical recipient gets around $1,500 to $3,000 per transaction, and the cool thing is there's no cap on that. It scales with your purchase price. It's a fixed percentage of our commission, and you can potentially stack that up with other credits from your lender or from the seller, saving you even more money. You do have to be a first responder or teacher, healthcare worker, or veteran to qualify, and there are some small restrictions that apply. The best thing to do is click the link below and book some time on my calendar. That way we can go through all the details and exactly how much we can give back to you at close of escrow. Now, if you're sitting in your New York City apartment right now and you're thinking, I love the city, but I'm ready for more space and better weather and a chance to own something, then Rocklin may just be your next move. So here's what you do next. Click the link down in the description. Book some time on my calendar. There's no pressure, no sales pitch. We'll just talk budget, timing, and whether, Rocklin is the right move for you. And don't forget to remind me that you might qualify for that Heroes program. Now be sure to smash that like button, and if you haven't already, subscribe. I've got more deep dives coming into Rocklin, Roseville, and all the nearby communities coming soon. If you're ready to stop scrolling and start dreaming, let's make it happen. See you on the next one. That's a wrap.